If you're a creative entrepreneur who's been on your journey for a short period or a long period, and you have the character that is required to become an ultimate success, but you haven't quite experienced any substantial momentum in your business as of yet, and you're a bit confused and discouraged, and you're not sure what principles you're missing on, you've come to the right video. In this video, I'm going to share with you the one thing that has absolutely changed the game for me in business and gave me significant growth, right? And while I'm not a millionaire yet, I have a much higher likelihood than most. And I'm going to share that with you in this video. So stick with me until the end, and I promise you, this will be a game changer. All right, let's dive right in. The one thing that I want to review, guys, that has been an absolute game changer in my life, I discovered it long before I entered into business. Now, as a child, I knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And this happened, I want to say I was probably around 11 or 12 or so. Might have been even 13. I'm not sure. I can't accurately track that timeline. But anyway, there was a children's cartoon that was produced decades before I was born. And I believe it was through Warner Brothers, if I'm not mistaken. And the title of it, I think it may have been a Looney Tunes production. I got to go back and check. But anyway, I at least do have the title. It was based on a story from the shoemaker and the elves, right? And it was, I guess they were expanding on that story. And it was a Looney Tunes production, I believe. And it was titled Yankee Dude It. And I'm not saying, like doodle, but dude it, like Dude it, right? Yankee Dude It. And anyway, so it was showing what had happened after the elves had magically revealed themselves and began to pay it forward to the elderly, poor old shoemaker that actually showed them mercy and grace, right? They were like posing as starving birds in the midst of winter, and the poor, struggling shoemaker who couldn't make any sales had felt empathy for them and decided on, rather than eating the last crumb that he had available or something like that, he gave it to the birds. And as a result of his kindness, they revealed themselves as magical elves and blessed his business, right? Use their magical powers and ingenuity and help him develop an inventory of very, very successful shoes, and he made profits and things like that. Anyway, well, fast forward in this version of that story, the elves were actually running a factory for the shoemaker, and the shoemaker had expanded his business out. And it basically was just showing you how you begin as a solopreneur and you build teams and you scale a business. And that intrigued me even as a child. So I knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur from that moment. So anyway, but the one thing that changed the game for me happened before I became a full-on entrepreneur. Now, I've done some entrepreneurial things as a kid, attempted to earn money and stuff like that, but never anything consistent, right? So I don't have a lemonade stand or a landscaping story for you guys, right? Or me selling newspapers, anything like that. I mean, I attempted a few things here and there. I had some guys that I grew up with that were enterprising, right? They would do little things. We lived near the racetrack, so they would go and earn money there. So I experienced some of those things, but I wasn't consistent. But one thing that I did have that really, really helped me was the ability to admit when I was wrong and when I didn't, and the honesty to admit that I didn't understand something. And what I realized when I developed this habit, this pattern, right, throughout my childhood and on into my adulthood, what happened was I was able to pivot far more quickly, and I began to iterate naturally. Well, as a former professional tattoo artist, I had to take my art seriously anyway. I was always into art, and I became an excellent photorealistic artist. Right, I used to replicate realistic photos. That's my passion. I loved it. I hadn't gone into painting yet, but I was masterful with various media, right, of like pencil and things of that nature. Anyway, because I would admit that I don't understand something or I had gotten something wrong, it helped me to develop myself as an artist and improve tremendously. And I would do that even with like reading, because as a child, I loved reading. I wasn't too fond of math. Now, here's the ironic thing, though. When I began really taking my art seriously and actually working particular jobs, I was literally using the math in the real world. So it really did give me a much more better outlook on math and a greater appreciation for it, like literally using it in real world situations outside of counting money, of course, right? Changed my life. I mean, I was impressed, and I had a natural proclivity for solving mathematical problems, right? And anyway, but what helped me is what helped me was the fact that I admitted that I didn't understand certain things, and that's why I'm doing this YouTube video today to share that with you guys, because it actually will actually change everything for you if you get to a space, a level of deep humility and shamelessness to understand that you don't understand something or when you get something wrong, because it will allow you to move faster and it will allow you to create that momentum that you need as it relates to business and to be a game changer in your life. Just imagine if you're in a situation with someone that you're having a personal relationship with and you're mulling over how you probably got into this tumultuous space and there's a lot of tension, but you're thinking over the situation and you kind of see a gap in your logic or where your perspective, and you really see that you were wrong. And it humbles you, and you make you extend an olive branch and you concede and say, hey, look, I was wrong. I didn't fully understand your perspective, and I felt this way. And now that when I, look at it in retrospect, I see where I was wrong, and I apologize. When you develop this habit, it will be a game changer, right? Not just in business, but in your personal life. But as it relates to business, it'll really help you, because a lot of times we get discouraged when we see our peers having great momentum in their businesses, and they've had a lot of consistency, and it feels like we just can't get there. Right, we're not lazy, right? Like I said, we have the right characteristics. We have integrity. We have reliability. We have all of these great characteristics, but it just doesn't seem like we can get that momentum that we need. Now, I have to be honest. I made a lot of progress as a professional tattoo artist. I really did. I was a black guy. I started tattooing before tattoo reality television, right? And I was told that I wouldn't be able to get into a shop as a black artist because in this part of the country that I live in Baltimore, Maryland. There, it was very rare, I'm not even going to say rare. At that time, you just could not find black artists in there. They definitely were outliers or anomalies. It was not the norm. It started to become a little bit more normal when the tattoo reality experience happened because a lot of blacks were able to express their talents, right? So a lot of shops had included a lot of other talent, and blacks got a chance to participate in that arena, but it was very rare. Anyway, I was told that I couldn't. I was rejected from shop to shop, wound up working in 8 shops, and I became a licensed artist. So that was a different time for me. But like I said, that pattern that I developed helped me even then. And the progress that I made in my life was basically in the learning, right? The finance, I basically still had a lot of financial inertia only because I hadn't gained any true foundational financial literacy. And that's what was the problem that I had. I had a lot of progress, made 6 figures and everything as a tattoo artist. Simply didn't have the financial disciplines. Anyway, and that's my point. The fact that I was humble enough to admit that I got that wrong, that I didn't understand, money, right? That I must have had something hardwired in me where I was self-sabotaging financially. The fact that I have that level of honesty where I can look in the mirror and see that is why I was able to begin the journey of change. Now, it wasn't until I was saved by Jesus Christ that I really became a great financial steward of my finances. I'll admit that. But at least I began the journey to learn before I was saved. And I still believe that that was the hand of God. Because the path that I was going down, even though I had a well-intentioned heart, it still was full of the world, the flesh, and the devil, and those temptations. And I was going down an absolutely bad path. But even in that phase of darkness in my life, the Lord was still there. And I really, retrospectively speaking, I can look back and I'm fully aware of this now, that the Lord was there. Like with the world, the flesh, and the devil meant for evil, the Lord meant for good. And I believe that's exactly why he allowed me the humility to develop this habit. And I admit when I was going through some spiritual pressure in my life, and my mind was in disarray. And my mom had told me to read the book of Proverbs and Ecclesiastes. Totally changed my life. Those were the first 2 books that I read independently as a young man, and it totally changed my life. I often did Bible studies and attended churches as a child, but nothing truly foundational. There was, a great deal of Baptist church, and then my mom, spent a little bit of time as a Catholic. And then my aunt and uncle, they were Baptists as well. So I had experience with church, Bible study my mom would do with us and everything. So Christ was always close to me in my life, right, from my childhood. But this was the first time that I did an independent reading, and it really helped me. Like I didn't need any medications, therapy, anything. The Bible was my therapy, God's word, and it absolutely had a change on me. As a matter of fact, that's when I began seeking wisdom and seeking knowledge. So it's like God put something on my heart before he officially saved me. And I think that that's very powerful because I began reading and things like that and really getting into business because I found a lot of practical wisdom in the Bible. And that's the thing that shocked me. Reading the book of Proverbs and Ecclesiastes, there was so much wisdom in there, practical wisdom as it pertains to not only life, but business. It blew my mind. And then that's when I started the journey of educating myself and investing in my mind, right? And building up a vast library. Unfortunately, I lost a lot of books due to a fire, but I had a huge digital library, right? I didn't let that discourage me. And then I would, invest in a lot of audio books as well. Well, anyway, it had really reinforced the idea of humility within me. And like I said, on every level, and I experienced this when I was working jobs and things. Like I said, I was working with certain equipment and using things for a company that literally was very valuable within the company. Like one company, we would have to cut pipe for other companies. And of course, you had to be really, really precise. And we had these faulty saws that you literally had to either add or subtract in order to get an accurate cut. And I would just get these, I mean, the cut was accurate to the hair, the cuts were. There were little tricks and things that I was doing that was just, it blows my mind to this day. Like literally we had air cranes where we had to actually lift bundles of pipes on these cranes and drop them onto a customer's, the bed of their truck. And the brakes on these air cranes were faulty, right? So I literally had to time them mathematically to actually stop so I wouldn't damage their truck or harm someone potentially. And I became very masterful at this. Like I said, math just became a part of me, even though I hated it in school. Anyway, just in those spaces where I was admitting that I didn't understand something, and I became super, super curious, and I would ask questions. I wasn't ashamed to say, hey, look, I don't understand this. Can you give me a better understanding of this? I'm a little fuzzy here. And of course, I had this little thing I used to do. Let's just say it was someone that I was working with that may not have been fond of, I'm not going to say that they were racist or anything like that, even though one of the jobs in particular was highly racist. But, I wasn't affected by that. I don't know. I guess God protected me at that point where as a child, I had enough self-awareness that I was valuable as a human being. So I didn't feel less than because of my culture or anything like that. So I didn't have any issues with that. But anyway, I would let someone know how I valued their expertise and their understanding, and it would kind of like they would literally let down their guard, and they would give me information based on that, right? In other words, so I always took the humble path, and I got more out of it, right? I didn't let it go to my head that I was a high performance worker at that time. Right. I was an extreme high performance worker. I would do the things that people were reluctant to do, and I was very masterful at it. But a lot of it came from I was curious and I wanted to learn, and I admitted when I didn't know something. And I was able to iterate and make the proper adjustments because I would quickly admit that I had gotten something wrong. I didn't have a lot of pride in those areas. And like I said, it allowed me to progress in a lot of areas of my life. It was easy for a person like me to get like jobs and all that, even though I was misguided and, got into the wrong path as a young man, and was dealing narcotics and just going down the wrong paths, looking up to the wrong people and things of that nature. When it came to making better decisions for myself in terms of employment, pursuing business, I really had a knack for it. And I knew that I did for creativity, among other things. And that was a blessing. Like I said, I just simply didn't have the financial stewardship down anyway. But I tell you all of this because I want to impart upon you the importance of humility and self-honesty. I'm telling you, it's a superpower. When you admit that you don't know something, that you don't understand something, it'll help you. I'm telling you, when I wanted to write a particular word, I would be honest with myself and not trying to impress people. If I didn't understand it, I would pick up a dictionary, right? Or thesaurus or whatever I had to do to understand that word. If I wasn't sure about the spelling, rather than pretending that I knew it, I would go back and do a spell check before I wrote it down. And this was a habit that I had, even when I would read to my son and things. And I really, really fell in love with words at that particular point. I would go back and make sure that I understood something. I loved exploring the etymology of words and, ensuring that I spelled them correctly. And I'm not saying I was like infallible at this, but having that level of humility allowed me to learn a lot more and develop a larger interest in learning. And if I'm in a conversation with someone and they're using words that I haven't heard and they're sounding super intellectual, it wouldn't intimidate me. It would interest me. I would ask, what does that word mean? I would go do my own research. That's just how my mind is, man. When I see someone that is just killing it, I don't care what arena they are dominating in their life, it doesn't discourage me. Even if someone wants to compare me to them or wants me to feel envious, I don't feel that. It always encourages me and makes me feel hopeful because the one thing I do know, and I believe since my childhood, is that life is what you make it. In other words, if we see an example in our life of success, we can make a success out of ourselves, right? So if it's true for that person and they can do it, that means it can be done. So that always encouraged me. Even when I got into the art of tattooing and I saw these highly skilled and technical tattoo artists, Guy Aitchison was one of them, right? I was one of my virtual mentors back then. And I just invested in his books and studied, what he taught. And I learned a great deal from the teachings of Guy Aitchison. Anyway, his level of technical accuracy and skill didn't intimidate me. It showed me that I said, this is what's possible in tattooing? Oh, man, I'm all in. Right. So it never discouraged me. Like I said, even if someone had some ill intent towards me and wanted me to feel smaller by comparing me to someone. And in some cases that happened. And in very few cases, well, I'm not going to say very few. In other cases, people were just excited to show me something because they knew I had a great interest in this stuff. It never intimidated me. I never compared myself. Right. I believe that goes back to 2 Corinthians 10:12 KJV, where it just talks about the importance of being wise and not comparing yourself with others, right, or measuring yourself in that way. And I just never did. It just basically, to me, it was just an example of what could be done. And I was honest enough with myself to say, hey, I'm not there yet, but I have the potential to develop myself. And that has been an absolute game changer for me. And I think that's what has allowed me to persist through this challenging journey of entrepreneurship. And the one thing that has helped me a lot was investing in the wisdom of other people. That has collapsed timeframes for me and a lot of money. Now, this has been a long journey for me. It has. But the time is going to pass anyway, right? And I had a lot easier than a lot of people. There's some people in third world countries that have created immense wealth starting from zero. So I don't have any excuses. Like literally, we're practically rich. Even when I had some stints of homelessness, I had a lot of blessings and I had a lot of resources available to me. So I'm not going to sit up here and, ever play a victimhood card or want you to feel woeful for me. Absolutely not. I've been blessed all through my life. Yes, I've had difficulties, and a lot of it I did place myself into, but I was wise enough to understand, hey, I got this wrong. I need to fix this. And I began that journey. Now, it didn't accelerate until God saved me. I'm absolutely going to be honest about that because I simply don't have any of the answers. God literally blessed me with it. And I wasn't able to more wisely direct my faculties until he saved me. But I was already taking the steps. I was already investing in my mind and everything. I just simply was a prodigal son, literally. A literal modern day prodigal son is what I was. And God saved me. Wasn't even looking for God. He found me and saved me and just set me on a straight path. And things have been amazing ever since. And that's why I'm sharing this journey with this channel, because I'm exciting, because I understand that I'm on to something. I have a higher sense of self-awareness and understanding that I figured a lot of this stuff out and that it can be absolutely helpful for people. Yes, my production absolutely needs to improve, right? It's not the greatest production on here. As a matter of fact, I feel like I suck at this level as a YouTuber, but I'm willing to stay in it and go through the learning curve as I learned in so many other levels in business. And I understand that I have the absolute potential to improve as a YouTuber. And of course, I'm going to invest in coaching and all of that stuff. I've gotten certain books, but I'm working on projects right now that I'm really focusing my time and attention to. And so I've been very intentional there. So I haven't really been able to fully dive in. But as my business grows in profitability, I absolutely am going to invest in my YouTube production because I want to give you guys really great visuals. And yes, I'm going to be jumping back on camera. And I can be honest and transparent. Like I'm still bootstrapping. So I'm not in the most ISIS and stuff like that. And I didn't want you guys to be distracted by that because some people may get discouraged and say, what does this guy know? And he's not living in mansions right now. I mean, he's literally living below his means and investing all his discretionary income. His money's going down and it hasn't fully gone up yet. Why should I listen to him? You should listen to me because I take action, right? I'm not going to tell you that I've made $1 million when I haven't yet. But what I am going to tell you is that I'm focused, I'm determined, and I'm humble, and I'm consistent. And I stay in the learning curve. And that's the whole point of this channel, man. Like, you may be saying to yourself, man, this guy's YouTube production sucks. But I'm going to tell you this. Everything that I'm speaking is real. And it's either things that I'm doing or already have done that I'm sharing. I'm not giving you theory, putting things into practice, or have already put things into practice. And the reason I can do that, guys, the reason why I persisted on this journey that was challenging is because I had a level of humility and self-honesty to admit when I got something wrong or I didn't understand something. And I hope this video is encouraging to you, and I hope it inspires you. And I promise you, I can't guarantee your success. Only you can do that. But I promise you, if you apply this consistently in your life as a habit, just humility and self-honesty and transparency with yourself and others. Hey, look, I don't understand this. I'm quite fuzzy on this. And it's going to help you improve your communication, by the way. My communication has increased tremendously, right? My one-on-one communication with people and my communication in general has increased. Because if I'm not sure if a person understood me, I'll make sure that I can get clear on it. I'm not going to assume that someone understood me, right? Just as Myron Golden's daughter's Dee says, the worst thing you can do in a communication is thinking that it even happened, right? So anyway, I hope this was useful to you guys. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week and keep pushing.